to call this meeting, regular meeting of the Bethel, I guess it's a special, is it a regular meeting or a special meeting because it's Zoom? Regular meeting of the Bethel Public Site and Building Commission to order at 7:01. And we've got David's flag, so we could use that again if we'll rise and we'll do the pledge. I have to keep these in so I can hear you all. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, and thank you, David, for providing us with a flag.
Anytime.
Okay, public input. I don't see any public because everybody else is either project or Board of Ed or public site, etc. And correspondence, the only correspondence that I know of relates directly to all of our projects, so we'll discuss those as we get into the rest of our agenda. And approval of meeting minutes from our special meeting of May 12, 2020. Kathy sent those out ahead of time, and so you should all have had time to review them. I got two computers going here, that's why I keep looking over here. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the special meeting minutes from Tuesday, May 12, 2020.
Second it.
David seconds it. And does anybody need to make any comments, changes, any problems that they saw, etc.? Everybody's good? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I think Bob has to abstain. Bob
Me?
German. Yeah. Oh, you were there for were you there for the beginning?
Yeah. Yep.
Bob was there for the beginning, Kathy. So that's a change that you need to make, actually. If you want to talk to us, you have to unmute yourself, but I see what you're saying. Okay, so make that change. He did jump off later on, as most other Board of Ed folks did, but he was there in the beginning. I do remember that. So you make that update. So then minutes will be approved with that change. And then back to the agenda. So Rockwell and Johnson schools. So do we have a construction progress update from Ken and or Jim? If they're, I see Ken's on here.
Yeah, I'm here with Jim,
Okay, great.
and I have an update. It's going on the screen now. Okay.
Yeah, great, thanks.
All right, for Johnson, from the last report, I've got it set up now by phase in the work area, so it's a little bit easier to follow without jumping around. The phase 1A, 5th grade gym edition. We're still working on the site work, sidewalks, and parking lot in the gym. We're working on the wrapping up the masonry, CMU, just a little bit to go. And the prep in place concrete grade beam didn't start, and I didn't get the actual reason. It's a manpower issue with the concrete guy. I wanted more information. His look ahead came in late today, so he's not going to be starting this week. He's doing the load and dock. The brick is at 65%. It's scheduled to be wrapping up towards the end of the week. The form in place there 4 took place, and that's 100% that was poured today. The fire protection hadn't started last meeting. There's no issues. I just wanted to report that from the last report, it hadn't started. When we get down further, you'll see that it has started. 2A2, which is the second floor of the existing building, we're from last meeting, the HVAC equipment duct was at 15%. The electrical systems were at 85. The windows and phenolic panels, 65. Masonry walls were at 85%. The first floor, the demolition and MEP demolition were at 20%. Phase 3A, the ensemble, HVAC equipment and ductwork was at 10%. An electrical system roughing was at 10%. 3B, main office area abatement is now 100%. The roof for the second floor is now 100%. Just for the roofing, they're working on metal edging, but I basically call the roof 100% when it's watertight. The let's see, the kitchen, the backfill of the underground plumbing is 100%, and we prepped and placed the slab. That was poured today, so that's 100%. The cafeteria roof is 100%. The demolition in the cafeteria is 100%. And for work in progress, 5th grade addition, the site work, sidewalk parking lot, he's at 75% now and expected to finish this week. The gymnasium, the brick is at 95%, expected to finish this week. Fire protection is at 80%, and as soon as we get the slab placed, we'll be able to finish that bit of fire protection. For the second floor of the existing building, the HVAC equipment duct 50%, the electrical system rough in at 95%, windows, phenolic panels at 90%. The K13 sound insulation at the spray at the art rooms just started, so that's at 10%. The masonry walls 85%, fire protection 20%, plumbing, drain, waste, vent, copper 30%. The phase 2B first floor, the demolition's at 90%, expected to complete by week's end. The prepping of the window openings, masonry, new walls, and infills 20%, and install windows 10%. For 3A ensemble, the HVAC duct and equipment 20%, metal stud framing 25%, electrical system rough-in 10%, plumbing, drain, waste, vent, copper, and roof drains 30%, and the roofing 5%. Okay, the 3B main office area, the demo MEP cut drop and make safe 80%. 3C, the music, HVAC equipment, 40%. Phase 4 kitchen, the roofing is just starting at 10%. And the metal stud framing is not starting there, so that should come off. And then for work to be started, the gym, we're going to be working on the forming and pouring the loading dock and stair. And then we're going to be going to place the concrete grade beam and slab at the gym. Door frames are expected by the end of the week for the first floor. we'll be installing them at the main office area as well. We've got the grease trap expected on June 8th, and the cafeteria spray is going to take place. He's going to move from the art room down to the cafeteria, so by the end of the week. So that is Johnson. So for Rockwell, for the work from the last report, we removed the pedestrian covered walkway in the front. For 4A, the first floor classrooms, we did the demolition. The HVAC equipment and duct is at 60%. The prep window openings and masonry, new walls and infills, 90%. I should have had the K-wing there. I apologize for that. The first floor windows for that area and phenolic panels are at 90%. Metal stud set door frames 95. That should have been K-wing as well. For the nurse area, we were expecting to start the metal stud framing and door frames, but we had some PCB tests that failed, so it's holding us up there that we have to remediate. And the bus loop is in this phase as well, and that is also at 70%. 4B2, the music special ed, we have the roof. No, we didn't have that in. The roof was for the existing second floor, and that's 100%. Phase 5, the kitchen. Backfill, underslab plumbing, heat trace, and insulation was at 90%. Cafeteria demo wall openings for curtain wall was 100%. Piers between the exterior curtain wall was a change order that we just received for the column details between the windows. The gym HVAC equipment and duct, that was scheduled, but it couldn't start because we have some glue jobs that are hot and some PCB abatement. Basically, the floor grinding has to go down further to pass the test. And we formed the interior step and placed the concrete. The slab was cut out for the underground plumbing at the locker rooms. The next page. Thank you. The work in progress. So the for the main office and stair 1 area, we've got the windows and phenolic panels at 60%. For phase 4A, first floor classrooms, prep and containment for the CMU, PCB demo is 60%. For the kindergarten wing, HVAC equipment and duct, 60%. prep window openings with masonry new walls and infills 80%. Windows in phenolic panels 90%. Metal stud walls and set door frames at 95%. The electrical rough-in is at 80%. For 4B1, the nurse, the demo, MEP, cut, drop, mix, safe is at 90%. 4B2, the music special ed, demo, MEP, cut, drop, and mix, safe, 90%. 4B2, the roofing, the existing second floor is 100%. That was an error. For phase 5, the kitchen, we're finishing up backfilling the slab. The slab plumbing, we have some stone to place, so that'll be finished in a day or so. And the cafeteria, prepping the windows, masonry, new walls, infills at 90%. It's masonry infill 90%. The water main in the corridor 30%. And the gym and platform area, grinding the floor due to the PCB testing and retesting, 85%. And the roofing is at 75%. For work we started, site work, the load and dock excavation is going to be starting. The first floor classrooms insulate in drywall. That'll be starting on the 27th. The nurses, metal stud framing, door frames expected to start on the 28th. Kitchen slab, we're going to be placing that concrete at the end of this week. The roofing, Monday, June 1st for the kitchen. Cafeteria roofing, June 8th. And the gym platform HVAC equipment duct, we've moved to June 8th with hopes of being able to get in there with the containments out of our way. And that's it for Rockwell.
So Ken, as you've been adding the phases in as part of the report, you're up to phase 5 in Rockwell and yet we're up to phase 4 in Johnson. Are those the number of phases that you continue to work with, or are there additional phases?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, and really, it's just a way to helpfully relate the work to the original phasing diagram,
Right.
but honestly, they're everywhere right now.
Well, that part I understand. I just didn't know whether additional phases were having to be added in with the change in scheduling, or whether we were going with the same numbers of phases, trying to stick with that. And I'm sure we'll get an update on the schedule soon.
Yes.
And just to add on to that report, I just wanted to give a short report on where we are with abatement at Rockwell. We continue to grapple with areas that fail their first test for PCB removal, both due to floor mastic and to paint. We had a conference call this morning with the construction team and Enviromed to look at the construction sequence and what areas we really need to concentrate on expediting testing for versus other phase areas that that can wait a little longer. And I think we have a good plan right now on how to approach getting the abatement done. It has the potential to impact schedule, obviously. Finding additional areas where we need to remove PCBs, and then you know, the potential for failing the first round of testing and having to do some more work and then go back. So, but I think we're on the right track at this point with the sequence of the work.
So with the gym floor, for instance, is that grinding that had to be done a while ago and then you went back and tested and this is more grinding, or is this a different area?
It's more grinding. So when they first removed the tar paper and the mastic, they took off probably a half an inch of concrete over that whole floor. Enviromed went in and drilled on a 10-foot grid, and out of what probably was, I don't know, 50 locations, I think 4 of them failed after the grinding. So now we have to go back and recontain, regrind those areas, and then we'll have to retest them to make sure that they're fine.
So you only have to regrind those areas, not the whole
Correct.
entire floor.
Right. So they're
So
going
then-
back in now and just putting up containment around those couple of areas. Some of it was concentrated at the door, at a door entry, and then kind of the opposite end of the gym. So we're just doing those small areas.
And then with the paint, is that on walls or is that,
The ones that tend to, that I think are failing and requiring retesting are on floors.
is that,
And also, we had an idea from testing that was done early, like even last summer, that some of the red floor paint might contain PCBs, because it did in the electrical room last summer. Now we're testing more of it instead of assuming that it contains PCBs, because it might have been due to the equipment in that room rather than the floor.
right?
So, we're sort of reassessing how we're approaching testing versus just abating things across the
So, right, so the color of the paint isn't always an indicator that all the red paint's PCBs.
Correct.
Okay. So has the testing come back on some of those floors that had red paint, or is that still waiting to?
That's part of what we discussed on this
Okay.
conference call today, and so we're waiting to test those areas. That'll be the next round of testing. We're concentrating the testing of the areas, obviously, in the classroom wing on the first floor, so that we can get that demolition and abatement done, and then move on to construction. And then I'll be testing the red paint on the floors is primarily in the custodial areas, so we'll go back to those areas and
Okay.
deal with them.
Is it turning out to be more than we kind of expected? What, less, about the same?
I would say it's turning out to be more. We did not have a good handle on how much PCB paint was in Rockwell. We're finding more floor tile, obviously, but I think the real issue is that we did not identify a lot of PCB paint before the project started, and now we're faced with much more testing, and then much more abatement, and then in these cases some retesting. So that's pretty much why those costs are so high, and why the environmental contingency is gone at this point.
It's a good thing we put it in there to start with. So
Absolutely.
or we'd be in real big trouble. So
Yeah.
thanks to the people that pushed for that, John Perna and the others that pushed for that. Any other questions on the report here from Ken, and Jim's in the background there with him, on any of the work in progress, et cetera?
Yeah. So I went a couple of weeks ago after we went actually with the police department and walked through, and I went over with Roy and oh good Lord, sorry, Rich. All the ductwork that's on top of Rockwell School, that's being wrapped and all that fun stuff. We have warranties on all that. I mean, there's like a ton of ductwork up there that I'm scared to death that within 3 years we're going to start seeing leaks and stuff on that. So what kind of with the insulation and wrapping do we have up there that our warranties are going to be covered with that?
Well, all of the installation on the duct will be covered under the warranty for a year after substantial completion is signed off.
Okay, because there's a ton of penetrations. I didn't realize how many until we went up on top of the mound up there to look down where they're going to put that fence where the bus loop is. And I have a concern with doing this for so long that, I mean, that's just a ton of penetrations that seepage can come in over time. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there because it just concerned me when I saw that. It's just an awful lot of awful lot of stuff on the roof, and I'm more worried about water getting into the ductwork and causing issues down the road with growth of who knows what.
Dave, you just opened up a memory of mine with Berry School. 5 years after it's opened, I had to replace all the insulation on that ductwork at Berry. So yeah, I share your concern.
Yeah, and Barry doesn't get close to what's up on the top of Rockwell.
Correct.
So Bob, when you had to replace all the insulation, you just replaced it with what was similar to what was existing?
Well, yeah. Well, what I did was I went one grade higher, and then all those seams had plastic bands opposed to duct tape. So I, kind of upgraded it a little bit, but it's a type of situation where if you don't touch it, it's fine. But if you have workmen bumping up against it or putting a toolbox down on it or climbing over it, it's not going to last. So, but I haven't seen the roofs yet at Rockwell Johnson, so I don't know that one. But it's just that Dave brought up that painful memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, that
Dave-
was my prior life, was fixing that stuff. And I was the guy that when they put it up there, I had to climb under, climb over, whatever. And that's when I first saw it. I'm like, oh, that brought back 1983 was like right in my face. So
Yeah.
is it, what kind of a protective wrap? Is it a PVC or is it EPDM? What do we have going on in the ductwork? Besides the insulation, what's the exterior wrapping?
Ken, do you know?
I'd have to check the exact material. But I'll get that information.
Okay, and David, have you had experience with the exterior wrap, one being better than another?
Yeah, for sunlight and UV rays and all that stuff. Yes.
Right.
And some of the newer ones have exoskeletons where it has some plastic mixed into it, so it keeps the stiffness up
So it's
against wind or rain.
So it's a little more rigid.
Correct. Especially in areas where you're going to have workmen.
Mhm.
Because you have to perform PMs on this equipment.
Right.
They're going to put the toolbox on top, or the belts on, the tool belts on top to have the tools at eye height.
Or they drag the ladder across it.
Yeah, yeah, that too.
Okay, so we'll get that info from Ken, and I don't know, we might need to look into doing something a little different or more substantial if it hasn't already started.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't read. I don't know what they have going on there. I don't have a copy of everything on there, but it's just something I noticed. And I wanted to
Dave, you and I should take a walk.
I couldn't agree with you more.
All right, good. And then Ken will get that info and we'll go on from there.
Great.
Thanks for bringing that up, David. Any other questions, comments, et cetera, for Ken on the construction report and the update?
I just have one question.
Mhm.
Rockwell,
Right.
you put the windows in the front half by the admin area, the finished area. Ken, was there any cleanup done in there?
Inside the admin office area?
Yeah, where they put the new windows in?
They had put plastic down at that entrance there, but it probably needs to get cleaned up. I'll take a look at it tomorrow.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
So just a question,
Yeah.
sort of, Bob and Ken. So I'm remembering, Bob, you were saying about different school offices opening soon, but I think I'm remembering from the last meeting or the meeting before that the offices in Rockwell and Johnson were not going to open, and the
That's correct.
administrators would be working out of somewhere else, one of the other school offices or central office, correct?
Berry School and middle school.
Okay.
Yep.
So they don't have to worry about them being open and getting work done, and they can just have those
Right.
areas. I mean, so I know parts are done, but there are other parts that still need to be worked on.
Right,
So,
the traffic pattern or, safety, we will be out of that area.
okay.
Nancy,
Rich, go ahead.
Ken had given up the percentages of completion on the individual things. Does he have a feel on the completion of each project overall to date?
Good question. Is anybody, Ken or Jim or even Geraldine, maybe. I don't know if you've looked at that.
Overall.
Yeah, you're probably in that 65% range, somewhere in there. You know, both schools will have the last of the classroom areas demoed scheduled by the end of this week. So I would say you're in that 65% range.
And how's it looking for the future?
I think the classrooms are good. Rockwell, the wild card there, and you know, as Geraldine said, we had a meeting today to try to see if there was a better way to do this, and unfortunately I don't think there is. So that's a little bit of a wild card there with Rockwell, only because it may involve additional testing that is difficult to schedule around. Whereas Johnson, where you know those classrooms are on track, you know, like I said, scheduled by the end of this week, that the demo is complete in that space. So it's, you know, it's in the right spot.
Okay.
So do we want to, because I had questions about how I understand that if you're finding areas that are possibly hotspots, you need to get them tested first. So then any work to be done in that area, whether it's demo or has to be then put off. So the subs that you've got scheduled have to then go away. And is that impacting, like, I know our next item is the construction schedule update. Do we want to get into that and look at answering that question I just asked, but also how we're seeing both all the different contractors and possibly material deliveries being affected continually with the COVID situation? Who was that? Hello?
Yeah, Nancy, this is John. I was going to ask the question about how we're making out with trades as far as the COVID. Are we seeing a reduction, or are we back to a full strength on that now?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we should have that become part of the schedule update or whether you just want to have that be separate. So I don't know, Ken or Jim, you want to jump in with that?
Sure. So you're seeing less of the, you know, company-wide quarantine type things, but what we are seeing is, you know, the manpower numbers, and it's not across the board, but for, you know, particular trades, the manpower numbers aren't where they need to be. So that's probably the biggest labor portion of it. You know, we're still seeing the delay issues on the delivery side. You know, we're waiting for door bucks at Johnson to come in. They're due in next week. So just things that to work around. You know, things like the kitchen equipment, those types of things, be much happier when they're actually on site. That seems to be what's happening now, whether it's a backup of deliveries or it's you know, a shortage of materials to deliver. That's the biggest issue with that. On the labor side, it's manpower, you know, numbers.
And I know last meeting we asked about whether with the manpower issues, whether the different trades are able to go out and find additional people to bring in, or, you know, have you had conversations with them as to how they're trying to alleviate the situation? And also, are you having conversations with whoever, I guess it would be through the trades, but wherever the materials are coming from, are you finding that, as you said, is it shortage of materials? Is it not enough delivery drivers? Are you getting any indication on, you know, why that's being affected?
Sure, it seems to be a little bit of everything. You know, you pick an item, and it's a case of that the distribution hub has been shut down, so they've been backed up. And in other cases, you know, the manufacturing's been delayed, so it hasn't gotten even to the distribution. As far as the trades, we see, you know, it's almost like a cycle where, you know, like for instance, the roofer at Rockwell, a lot of difficulty, initial COVID quarantines, a lot of items like that. Now his numbers are up, you know, not to where we'd like them to be, but they're certainly up. You know, it's coming to light now. We're having an issue with the plumber and maybe the electrician at Rockwell, which happens to be Ferguson, where it's the numbers. You know, where that stuff is really coming out is as we start to open up and take the demolition out of the way at both schools. That's when you really start to see, hey, you know, this is where the numbers need to be. And so that's probably the biggest concern as far as the COVID issue goes.
Okay. Any other questions for Jen and Kim, or Ken and Jim, on either the construction update or how the COVID situation is affecting schedule with trades or deliveries? Okay. Do you have a schedule update for us as best you can?
As the scheduler is going to do her best to have it by the end of this week, but I think it's more likely I'll have it early next week. Unfortunately, everybody is doing the same thing, moving up all their scheduling due to the closing of the schools. So I'm hoping for the end of this week. I'm pushing for it.
Okay, and so are you seeing, or I know it involves a lot of the different trades, so are we seeing good, bad, indifferent? I mean, is it with the school being closed, obviously for, you know, the extra time, are we gonna hopefully make up some time? Or is that difficult to say right now?
Yeah, I don't think that you're seeing the makeup of time. What we're seeing is, based on our conversations with Dr. Carver and Geraldine, is making sure that we're prioritizing the areas that are a priority to the school. And in those areas, we're making good progress, which means if we are short labor, we have to pull them out of one area to make sure we've got enough in the area that is the priority. So that's what you're seeing.
So it's a lot of juggling.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So you don't have a specific update for us. We might have to wait for the next meeting for that.
Yes.
And
we're still working on the commitment to get the TCOs in both schools for August 28th. The importance of the schedule is to see how we're getting there and how we're going to integrate some of the other outside vendors that have to work in there. So if we can get the schedule by early next week, that would be extremely helpful.
right. I can imagine it's kind of almost like a moving target.
Right, but it's a target. We've got to hit it,
Well, right. So, that's kind of always what I've heard about, both goals and things like that, is that you have a better chance of hitting a target if you know what it is. So if we're still trying to commit to that August and school opening in September date, I guess you just all need to keep working towards that best we can, and get the areas obviously that need to be done finished. And so as you had said, I think it was the last meeting, Ken and Jim, Geraldine, I think Dr. Carver was on too, where he talked about specific areas that were being focused on and other areas that obviously we'd like to see done, but if they didn't get done, you could still get your TCOs and get school open. That was sort of a question.
That plan hasn't changed. We are still prioritizing classrooms and office space in each school, kitchens as sort of a secondary, and then as much, and no work is stopping in any other areas, but those more auxiliary areas, gyms, music areas, the cafeteria, they're also progressing. And I think Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, the plan currently is that all the interior areas at Rockwell would be completed by the end of September. And then all of the interior spaces at Johnson would be completed end of October, with, as I said, classroom and office space in both schools being completed for end of August.
Yes.
That's the target.
Okay. Any other questions on any of that part before we move into the next section, which I believe is, are we going to do budget review or FF&E thing?
We'll do a short look at the budget, but before we move off of construction, I neglected to bring this up at the last meeting, and it's not specifically on the agenda, but we are at a point where we need to figure out what to do with the excess dirt pile.
Oh, yes. So yeah, that came up actually in a department head meeting last week.
Oh.
And that Dr. Carver brought it up, just even though it wasn't, because I happened to be on as the department head in a different capacity. So, and then a couple different people were supposed to be looking into it with Dr. Carver and Bob Dibble and Highway Department, et cetera. And then I didn't get an update, but that's got to get done real soon. Is that we're looking at needs to get out of there soon.
Nancy?
Yeah, who's that?
Christine Carver, I'm sorry.
Oh, hi, you're there. Hi.
Yes, I had to join late.
That's okay.
So I did talk to Matt one more time about the dirt, just to see if the town wanted it in any capacity. And he was going to check with Bobby Dibble again, but I think we're still in the same spot. I don't think anybody has identified a place that it could be moved to, and whether or not there'd even be a use for it.
Which means we're going to have to pay money to get it hauled out of there.
Potentially, although we also have not identified a cost or anybody who wants to haul the dirt out of there either. So the third choice there may be looking at whether there's a use for any or all of it on site by changing the grading that we already have. So, and I think, so the first thing I think we want to do is eliminate the possibility that the town wants it. And if we can eliminate that possibility, then we will concentrate on reusing it on site somehow, redesigning some of the grading to reuse it on site, and continue to pursue whether somebody else wants to haul it away.
How much of the soil is actually reusable as topsoil percent-wise? You know, is it all garbage, fill, or is it some salvageable soil in there?
Hey, John?
Yeah.
John, Bobby Dibble says that soil needs to be, you got to work with it a little bit to bring it up to some level of grade. Right now, it'll just be a muddy mess no matter where you put it. It has no body to it. It's got to be screened. You got to mix it with some additional, topsoil in order to make it viable. Right now, it's just dirt.
Can we extend the fields at Johnson to make them longer or bigger by pushing them off to the back? I guess it would be the southwest and the northwest and west or north side of the fields there.
John, it's Christine.
Approach wetlands.
John, it's Christine. I actually asked Bobby that question, and I think there's a couple of factors that are complicating it. One is the way I had thought the most natural thing would be to fill in the softball field to raise it up because there's ADA issues. But apparently one of the compounding issues is that the drainage that they put into the field, which I don't understand all the technicalities, would actually have to be redone if they raise the field in any way.
Right.
And then to Bob's point, Bobby Dibble also said to me, unless the dirt has a lot of filtering, that it would be a giant mud puddle. I think Ken said they are going to use some on the site, correct?
Yes, we're going to use some for the embankment behind Rockwell and the detention pond. Around the detention pond, we're going to be placing some. And then
The other area I was thinking of is at Rockwell, between the football field, the youth football field, you have that big dip there. Can that be filled in and then graded off with topsoil and take that big dip out and make it kind of level?
I think
John, they had issues with that because you're covering the utilities under it a little bit too deep. And maybe Ken can expand a little bit more, but the utilities run there and you would be putting these utilities down about 9 feet at that point.
I mean, they got utilities in town already buried deeper than that.
yeah, it's anything's possible. It's just you probably would want to run it by the engineer for your drainage.
And
I know
engineer.
at the end, there's a there is a drain at the end of that dip. I mean, that would, the culvert would have to get raised up probably maybe 4 or 5 feet higher. I'm just thinking of places to put it that, it could be used to get, again, smooth out that dip and get a nice, nice grade from the edge of the parking lot up to the field.
But that might have to get run by planning and zoning to inland wetland, et cetera, like, the type of soil, et cetera. If it's not the right type of soil, then it might not let you do it, but I mean, it might be worth looking into.
Nancy?
Yeah.
I had asked, they were supposed to check with Earth Movers and see if Earth Movers would give us anything for that dirt. It's in their contract that they have to move it anyway. So if they gave us some money for the dirt, that could offset, some playground equipment or something later. But I had mentioned that about filling in the baseball field there to raise that up. And I almost got killed because it was an amphitheater there that people could sit on the bank and watch the baseball games. But that would be my idea is, raise that up there so you don't have to go down in the hollow all the time. So, and I had talked to Bobby about the field before, and it's all mixed in. Originally we were thinking it was topsoil and it was going to be worth a lot of money, and it's all mixed in stuff with roots and rocks and subsoil and topsoil. So, my question would be ask Earth Movers if they wanted it, that they would just take it maybe for taking it, rather than us paying them to take it away.
Hey, even if we break even on it, that's better than nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was in their contract that they had to haul it someplace in town for the town use. So, if they're willing to take it and give us a nominal fee for the dirt, that might be something. But I never heard back from anybody that if they were interested in it.
Yeah, we found out that they don't want it. They don't have a use for it or a place to bring it.
That's always the way when you want to give it away.
Right.
No one wants it, but when you need it, no one has it.
Right.
Or you need some dirt.
There's no other surrounding towns that might need it for fill somewhere that we checked that, just out of curiosity.
That's a good question.
It was in the contract that they would move it somewhere in town here. So if you're hauling it somewhere else.
No, I completely understand that, Rich. I do. What I'm just saying is maybe if a surrounding town might need a third of it, a half of it, something that, they're willing to come and get it for free and take it and use it for fill. We give it to them, say, hey, take what you want and then leave the rest. And then, even if we drop it down by a half, it'd be a hell of a lot easier to figure a place out than, because there's got to be a couple 100 yards of dirt there.
Yeah.
Oh, more than that.
400 yards, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So Ken, what kind of time frame are we looking at? You're going to use some, and then when does it need to get out of there?
I mean, where it's sitting,
Yeah.
it's a
Now.
you would probably want restored, but it could stay there out of our way till the end of the project.
Okay. Dr. Carver?
Yes, Mr. Schmidt. Yeah, I'm here.
What are your feelings of raising that field up?
Well, that's what I had talked to Bobby about, but he told me, and Ken can provide the details. Bobby told me that if you put just that dirt in without a lot of, as Bob said, I don't know the right words, but fill to make it would raise it about 5 feet, he said. But the problem is the drainage.
Mm-hmm.
They would have to reroute the whole drainage because I think they have it coming from the building into that area. And then secondly, you would like I said, you'd have to do something to that so it wouldn't become a big mud puddle. That's what Bobby Dibble told me.
Yeah, but my daughter has played on a field for years, and it is nothing but a big mud puddle now.
Okay.
When it rains, it turns into a mud puddle. It's been like that for years. So I'm not saying we have to do it. I'm saying, what would the uptick be if we have to put the dirt in, put some drainage in, and then, or you just crown the field down to drain away, slope it rather as a way, to slope it back towards where the fence would be, as opposed to drainage, and do something like that. I don't know what it would cost to put topsoil on top. You need 6-8 inches, maybe a little more. And, I don't know what that cost is, but the cost of moving it, grading it, and then you bury it, you don't have to screen it, I wouldn't think too much. And then you just put some 6 to 8 inches of topsoil on top of it. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Right
Can I just add 2 points? Point
Yes.
number one, some of those drains were because of that hill and that slope. So if that slope is gone, some of that drainage could be removed. And point number two, that entire field was highlighted in the OCR report, Dr. Carver, as ADA compliant, non-compliant.
Right.
Non-compliant.
But we addressed that, Bob.
Yes.
We addressed that
Yeah,
with
Yeah,
Dr. Wood.
There's also, isn't there plans to
portable
install a
bleachers,
ramp
yeah.
to that portion of the field?
Well, I guess my question is back to Ken before we get into this. Ken, what would you have to do to the drains that you installed that go into that area? Would that all have to be rerouted?
We just have to have the engineer take a look at it and tell them what the proposed plan is. And they would tell us, whether we even need the drains anymore or not.
To Bob's point, really, before you could use that material for anything like that, other than having to screen it, you'd have to run a sieve analysis on it. You'd have to see, and what the person was telling you was correct. You might have to blend it with other materials to get it so that it's not a poorly graded material, which it probably is right now.
Right.
Wouldn't want to just take that and put it in a, even if you did it in lifts and compacted it.
Right.
But if it's something that needs to be addressed in the future, now would be the time to address it when all the equipment is there. And, I believe you still have some funds in your contingency. I'm not saying using the contingency funds, but if it's something that's going to help that field in the future, it's going to save money in the long run for the town.
And
So it might be something to investigate.
right. And Geraldine, while we're investigating it, would that be reimbursable? Because that would be an add-on to a project? I'm not sure. So we just need to know that too.
Good point.
Yeah, I don't see why not, but it is a substantial change to the project and on a field that is not solely dedicated to the school.
Right.
Funded. So we would have to look into that. I'm more concerned with the fact that, or not concerned, but I do think whatever proposal we have does need to be engineered. So we need to look at not just at the soil, but at planning that entire area, which is going to take some time.
Rich, I have not talked to Eileen Earle about it. Have you?
Eileen likes it the way it is.
Oh,
She likes the fact that people can sit on the hillside. You're still going to have the hillside that you can sit on. I mean, you're not raising it up, 10
Right.
feet to be level with the other. But my personal opinion is down in a hole. And Dave had mentioned that it was a mud hole anyway.
yeah. I mean, that was my first idea, is to level that field.
The use of that field has changed. For
Yeah.
years, it was the varsity softball field. But
Mhm.
that is no longer the case. The varsity softball field is now up by the school. So that field is more used for, the rec leagues, maybe some practices, and also for, it's used a lot as a place to go out and do PE class for Johnson.
It is.
Right. Well, with the extra kids at Johnson now, would it be used more?
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
So can we figure out like either a little subcommittee or something that we can do about looking at this? Because we can go round and round and round here tonight with it, to make sure that all the different people who need to be talked to get talked to, and we come up with some sort of proposal as to, is it possible, if it's going to cost X amount of dollars to move the dirt over to the softball field and change the drainage and whatever, but then it's going to cost this much just to haul the dirt out. Is it a wash? Is it, do we save money? Do we spend more money? Can we do that outside of right now?
Nancy, it's Joe.
Yep.
I have a couple of points I want to give you information on. So
Sure.
when we reviewed the project with the state, they had us define a limit of work line, which does not include that field.
Right.
So I believe any work in that field would not be eligible.
So even if it's not eligible for reimbursement, I think if we're looking at, I don't know, $100,000 to have the dirt hauled away, period, out of, the project or the town money.
Right.
And it's going to cost, I don't know, $100,000 to do improvement on the field that's workable, that the town, it's not going to come out of the project. It's not going to be reimbursed or whatever. I think we just need to look at some figures, I think, or even before putting some numbers together, looking at, maybe someone looks at the dirt and says, oh, you don't want to do anything with that dirt except for haul it somewhere and give it to somebody for fill. So, I mean, like I said, that's good information for us to know, Joe, as far as the whole project and reimbursement part.
Right.
Yet everybody's throwing out great ideas, yet are those ideas viable? Can we make them work? Would they be cost effective, et cetera? So that might need to be looked at, like not right here tonight, but somehow differently.
Hey, Nance, this is something that Roy and I talked about. I think Rich Drayton was involved in that conversation too, about looking at places to put it. I mean, I'd be more than happy. I know Roy's not in the call tonight, but he did express an interest in, finding a place for it. And so, as far as internally on the building committee, I'm sure Roy would be happy to serve on it, and I would be happy to serve on a subcommittee.
Roy's here.
Oh, he is here? Okay.
Yeah. You're muted, Roy, so we can't hear you.
Mm-hmm.
And now?
Yep, you're on now.
Yeah, I'd love to get involved with this. We did initially look at this, and to be honest with you, the material that was there is not very desirable. And, as far as trying to redo the fields, I think you're looking at a whole another engineering project to do that. It's not as easy as just laying in 4 or 5 feet of fill. So, just the first glance at it, we're trying to find an easy area to get rid of it, close around the job sites here. That's what we initially looked at.
Right. Nancy, my other point was there is part of the project an accessible walk that was to get down to that field. That's part of this project already.
Yeah.
To make it accessible.
Yeah.
And
right.
I'm not sure cost wise, but there is an alternate that you didn't select at the beginning of the project of the construction to extend the soccer field. And I don't know if it's viable to use this dirt as part of that alternate, or if it's just cheaper to get brand new fill.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Nancy.
So are those things that Roy and John and maybe some others can look at?
We could definitely relook at this, Nancy, because where it was left was when the town was going to look at it to see if they had a use for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from where we are now, I think we'll have some different ideas from the conversation we just had.
Okay. So I think we need to make sure we look into talking to all the right people. Somebody jumped into saying would other towns want it, so do we call, I don't know, Danbury or Brookfield and say, you want a bunch of dirt? Come and get it. Do they have a use for it? We don't know. It's crappy dirt, but you can have it. So that might be something to look into too. Okay.
Yeah, we can do some research on that. Now we have a little better direction as far as that Bethel doesn't seem to be wanting it. So.
But and the softball field is out, but extending that soccer field is a situation that could be looked into. And then you just got to make sure you talk to all the different players, because one group might think it's a good idea and then another group doesn't. So, everybody thinks raising the softball field would be good. Eileen Earl doesn't like it. So you got to kind of talk to everybody to make sure all parts of this get looked at.
Yep, that would be good. I'll put a call into Richie and John tomorrow, see if we get anyone else that wants to be on the subcommittee. Would be great.
Right, and then you know
Yeah.
too that you can get Phil and Perkins Eastman and Geraldine, as far as like Joe brought up a couple things that we talked about quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
That we want to make sure we remember that, you know, we made some decisions and certain things are go and certain things can't be done. So take that into consideration too.
Good.
Okay, anything else on the dirt?
Nancy,
Yeah,
Nancy, I have a question, not about the dirt,
sure.
before you leave construction.
Yep.
Can maybe Geraldine give us an update on either commissioning or punch list? Some of the items?
Sure, except that there really isn't an update. We're going to punch list the entire project in August as it comes to completion, and we've also shifted from a phased commissioning effort to commissioning all the equipment that's going to be available in August. So until we have that new schedule and can integrate both the commissioning agent and some of the other vendors into that new schedule, there really isn't an update on that. But instead of trying to bring parts of the building online individually as they're completed, we're really just, other than that first phase, we're really left with just the rest of the building.
Right, because I know Bob had asked a while ago about starting a punch list, and I can understand where you're coming from, Bob. You don't want to wait till the last minute, yet there's so many things going on in so many different areas. You may put something on a punch list and all of a sudden it gets taken care of because it's on someone's list already. So it's like a balance.
Well, my only concern was, as we get closer to us occupying it again,
Right.
I don't want them going back in there to touch up paint, touch up this, touch up that. At some point, they have to get out of there.
Yeah.
Out of these finished areas.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. We just don't know what that schedule will be until farther into the summer. And we will encourage a rolling punch list as they complete areas and can shut doors. But in terms of having any official punch list and review by the architect and particularly review by the commissioning agents, it will not be done in a phased approach anymore. It'll just be as all those areas come online in August.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, I'd gladly help out with the walkthroughs on that if you want.
Absolutely.
Great, thanks. Okay, anything else with construction or schedule, or are we ready to jump in and look at a few little big budget items?
Okay, we'll just review. I just want to highlight on the two budgets where we're at in terms of owners spending. This is for Johnson. You'll see in the center of the spreadsheet, the current owner's contingency is $1,547,175. So we are still, and we'll look at the change order log in a minute to see what that percentage of the entire construction cost is. But still a good amount left in the owner's contingency, and at Johnson, $111,832 left in the environmental contingency, which we do not expect to draw much more down on. We are having a negotiation about some of the extra areas that required abatement at Johnson. So we may see a change order on that eventually, but we're still negotiating with the abatement contractor on that amount. But good contingency left on Johnson. And at Rockwell, as we stated earlier, the environmental contingency has been fully expended, and we have $660,763 left in the owner's contingency at Rockwell. And
So any future environmental issues at Rockwell are going to just come out of the project contingency?
That's correct.
So they'll require
yes, as they come up, we'll be highlighting them and approving them as part of the owner's contingency draw.
Right.
But I think, but as we talked about earlier, we will still be tracking certain costs as environmental costs in order to have a full accounting at the end of the project. Sort of a different exercise from the spreadsheet analysis.
Okay. Any questions on budget tracking here for Geraldine?
I know this isn't next on the agenda, but just to highlight, so at Johnson, that amount that remains in the contingency, to date, approved change orders have only been 1.07% of the total construction cost. So we've only expended $347,000 of combined owners and environmental contingency to date. So you can see that number compared to what we have left in the balance is pretty good. And at Rockwell, we'll come back to these PCO logs in a minute. At Rockwell, the almost $303,000 in change orders represents 1.4% of that construction cost, which again is pretty good at this point of the project. And then you can see the balance of the 660 there. So the next thing on the agenda would be
question.
Oh, so go ahead. Yeah,
I just didn't
we'll
know
come back to those PCO logs.
Right. Okay. Sure. So go ahead.
So the next thing on the agenda would be to review and approve the furniture package B. The bids came back on Monday. Joe and his team have been working on analyzing and leveling those bids. And we need a review and recommendation to award from the Public Site and Building Committee. And after you do it, whatever is approved tonight goes back to the Procurement Committee for their approval before purchase orders can be issued. So Joe, how do you want to review this?
I guess we could just scroll down to the bottom. I don't think we need to go through every line item.
No.
We got bids on every item in both packages. And I guess we'll start with Rockwell. The budget was $452,000 and change. The bid came in at $337,000 and change. So we came in about $115,000 under budget for Rockwell. And for Johnson, the budget was $933,000 and change. And the bids came in totaled at $525,000. So for a delta of $408,000 below budget. And you can see at the bottom here, there's $3,157 worth of items of that 525 that are not eligible for reimbursement.
Is that
mostly gym equipment?
Yeah, that in the riser, Joe?
So that's not
the risers.
unusual.
We had to pull the risers out. Barbara was not going to approve us going out.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Because of the ADA issue.
Yes, because it's impossible to, well, it's not impossible, but with the space constraints in these buildings, it's very, very, very difficult to make risers accessible. So we just pulled them out so we could move forward with the rest of the package.
And Joe, the ineligible expenses at Johnson are the volleyball, right?
Yes, volleyball.
Stanchions or something.
Yeah, I forget what the word.
Volleyball, poles, pole pad.
Yeah.
I did, just so the committee knows, Joe did run it by me. I do think in the long run, it's still going to save the town money because it would eventually something that they would have had to add.
Yes.
Because the volleyball team, and not only for public use in terms of the park and rec, but also our team having access to that gym. I think it was something that we were going to have. It's unfortunate that it's an ineligible expense from the state, but for the $3,000 delta, it didn't make sense to add it later on sometime in the future.
That's cheap.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have
But
a
we will
question.
have the opportunity to talk about the risers in the future because I do, similarly, they need to be replaced. It's
do.
not a reimbursable expense, and so we could not
Yes.
have it part of this process, but it doesn't mean that we won't be able to use town side funds to supplement later.
Especially since we're under budget.
Right, and it's gonna, it would end up costing the town more if we waited and did it later.
Right, okay. So
Yeah,
Joe,
I believe those are available on state contract as well.
They are.
So
Mm.
you could
So
buy
that-
direct off state contract.
so that would be, put us in a position to get a good price on them.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So now we're approving a number here, is that?
So, but before we do that, I want to, Joe, we need to talk further about the bids.
Yes.
So we received, as you can see from the larger spreadsheet, if anybody looked at what was posted on the shared drive, you know, each
Crazy.
individual piece in the furniture spec is, so no one vendor can provide a price on every piece. So we did have multiple vendors provide prices on multiple items. There was a bid received, and just for transparency, we need to explain that a company called D Hospitality provided a price essentially for every piece in the spec. They were, well, we don't even know whether they were the low bidder or not on any of the pieces. And that is because the recommendation from Perkins Eastman and myself is to disqualify these bids because they did not provide enough information on what they were substituting or the pieces they were providing. It was not clear really what they were providing. Joe, do you want to?
Correct. Yeah. So they list, you could see here, they listed as the manufacturer for every item themselves. And then part of their bid package, they included images of the items that we specified as basis of design. So it was really, we couldn't compare what they were providing with what we actually specified because there was not, there was really no information other than them saying that they're the manufacturer of the student desk, but we don't know what it looks like, what the specs are, or anything on it, because they didn't provide any substitution, one-for-one comparison of each item.
Have you heard of them before?
No.
No.
Okay.
We actually looked up their website, and they seem like they're like an interior designer, and they procure furniture. It was very, very odd.
Yeah, and they're from Ohio or something, I think. I mean, it was, you know, not a local business, and I don't even know why they would be bothering, you know, to put together a price proposal. But so in the interest of transparency, we wanted to let you know that we did not even analyze that bid. So, so the selection of the low bid vendor for all of the other pieces, as you can see, if you go into this spreadsheet, they're highlighted in this yellow color, and that's where the total spreadsheet or the total bid package recommendation came from. Which is
So, and that was going to be my question, is in looking at the spreadsheets, and then I had to close them because my eyeballs started running around in my head. And then, you know, that you had that many bids, because didn't you have like 10 or 12 or
Yes,
something?
there was 10 bids.
So you had to go through and look at each individual item, like student desks, and figure out who had the lowest bid on it, or were there
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we had to look at each item. So the first thing we did is we looked at basis of design to see who submitted the basis of design. And in almost every case, we had a basis of design that met the budget, and we did not accept any alternates on the basis of design.
So then, in theory, a bunch of different people, we're going to buy stuff from a bunch of different people.
Mm-hmm.
So that bottom line isn't one.
That's correct. That bottom line is a combination of the low bid
Or one
for
provider.
different products. Yeah.
Right. So there was another company, H-Cone, which I have never heard of either,
Yes.
that did submit a mix of basis of design and substitution requests. And again, their substitution requests did not meet the specification. for amount of information, and but they had a number of items that they were based on the design that they were the low bidder on, so that you could see here we awarded some of those items.
Okay. So in approving this, it's approving that bottom line number, but it's approving it as per pages and pages of documentation saying who we're going to buy the different things from.
Right.
Okay.
And actually, that's part of the next step is, so we're asking you to approve the total numbers, the individual pieces that have been identified and their prices, and then a specific spreadsheet for each vendor is developed that is attached to their purchase order, so that we know
Correct.
exactly, you know, like under this, just this part of the screen, we know that Inselco here is going to provide some 2-drawer lateral files, bookcases, and then you go all the way down here to some lounge furniture. You know, there will be an individual spreadsheet put together for each vendor that will identify what's totaled on their purchase order. And that's how we track even the deliveries and the invoices that come back.
And this seems to be similar to what you had to do before, but this seems larger.
Correct.
Yeah. So does anyone have any other questions on this or comments for Geraldine or Joe?
So again, we're 100 and just, I think it's 115 under budget on Rockwell and
Yes.
100 and some thousand under budget on Johnson. So,
Right. 408 on Johnson.
yeah. So those amounts will revert from the furniture line item budget back up to contingency at some point.
So, and they could be used if they go back into contingency for, well,
Whatever
said about, well, like the risers,
Correct. That.
well, we do that at some point, but wasn't there something in the playground that was needing, weren't we like under budget, over
The-
budget?
Playground got restored for Johnson up to the original budget of 200,000.
Right.
The Rockwell playground remained at 146 or 47. I forget the exact number. Because a part of package A, the savings there wasn't as great as you could see with the ratios here.
Mm-hmm. But we could possibly do something with playgrounds with this if we wanted to, but we may have to prioritize as we kind of approach other things that may need to be coming out of contingency.
Yeah, Geraldine, can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
So if we did put it towards Rockwell Playground, and you know, right now, I know there's a healthy contingency, but the project is over budget, right?
The project is over budget only if we expend all of the contingency, yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
if we were to put it back into the playground, I guess going back to the question about the eligibility, you know, and I know you have to file that R with
Yep.
with Barbara. Is it better to be conservative now and then as we get closer determine whether or not it made sense to add on, or is that something that we could actually consider now?
So right now, the Rockwell is still about $1.4 million over budget on the budget sheet.
Right.
There is, I mean, so yes, so even today, let's say we're over budget because there's $343,000 in the CM's contingency, 660. So there's about $1 million left in contingency. There's not a chance we can get through the rest of the project without spending it. So, but even if we didn't spend it, the project would still be $400,000 over budget.
Right.
And on Rockwell, we're talking about $115,000 that might come off of the furniture portion and move back into some other line item or contingency.
And I know from the town's perspective, it's just that they're still under budget, but for the reimbursement piece, I just think we got to keep that in mind, right?
We do, but it does come down to, it will come down in the end to how the town wants to treat the two projects. We know that the state wants them, on the state side, they are separated. And so if Rockwell is over budget, whatever we spend over the budget, over the approved amount that the state is still carrying, which is the 24,723,432. Anything you spend above that will not be eligible for reimbursement. It doesn't mean that that the town can't decide to spend the money. It's just a matter of they'll be spending 100% of it instead of, 35% of it or 45% of it, whatever.
Right, but we could spend it from Johnson to Rockwell to not have to go theoretically over budget on Rockwell. We just don't get the reimbursement.
Correct.
Right. And at this point, you're really talking about a couple $100,000, unless things drastically change.
Well, I think that, no, I think it's probably going to be more than a couple $100,000 because I think that we will continue to draw down on the owner's contingency for environmental issues. There are inevitably a number of, there are still change orders that are going to be coming up.
Right.
So there will be a request at the end to shift some money on the town side from the overall budget kind of into Rockwell, I guess, is what we'll be looking at.
Yeah, and I guess strategically, and we could talk about this offline, I just think it's something we have to consider. Just because I had a lot of meetings with the state today, having nothing to, but school construction came up. and I just wonder, like, I know you can't file that, the ED 49R until later in the project, but
get one shot. So yes.
Right. But I'm worried as the later we get, their flexibility because of their own issues right now because of COVID. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I heard today at the state that any new projects may be put on hold because they need to use the money because of the deficit that's being developed because of COVID. So I don't know. It's just something to think about strategically.
We should have more of a chat about that, I think.
Okay.
It's a combination of how we want to approach the state, but really is there a fallback on the town side where even if we don't get anything reimbursed, either on the, because of excess environmental costs or this negotiation between the two projects, is the town in support of spending that money out of the approved referendum number in any case? So we should strategize both sides, the town side and the state side.
Okay.
Well, Marty had given us a determination that it could be considered one pot of dollars because that's the way the referendum was worded.
Right. But
the only extent that the state really even verbally gave us was to move from one to the other if it related to environmental.
Right.
So that's our status.
But Terry, I think it's bigger than that. It's like, it's also about bonding money. Does the town want to take on that responsibility?
Yeah, correct.
And I just think it has to all be like thoroughly discussed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all sides need to be looked at. So we'll take that into consideration. Thanks. So where do we go now?
Well, so back to the furniture. So the furniture award does require action.
Oh, right. Okay. So I'll make a motion and you make sure I fit all the pieces in. So we'll do Rockwell first. I make a motion that we approve the FF&E amount, FF&E package B amount of $337,159.40 as per the attached spreadsheet with the vendors specified.
Second that motion.
Yes.
Oh, so that's specific enough?
Yeah.
Okay, Kathy, you got that? She'll jump in if she doesn't. I know she's probably muted and dancing in her kitchen or something. So we got a second. And so any other questions? So we've discussed it quite a bit. And just before we go ahead and take a vote, are there any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Aye. What? Rich has a question? Rich?
Yeah, I had a question, but I didn't get it in. Are any of the bids over $50,000? Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so you're awarding this on the total amount. I'm not 100% sure you can do it on the total amount if you got individuals more than $50,000 there. I don't know. Maybe Terry can answer that question.
No, we did it that way last time because it's detailed in the spreadsheets who got every single individual item of furniture.
Okay, if that's how you did it last time.
And it was completely bid. I mean, it was a whole RFP process. The town purchasing agent handled all of it was a formal bid process.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think as Geraldine said, once we approve this, it has to go back to procurement to be kind of seconded in a way by them.
Because they make the final, they actually approve the final award. So they're
make
doing
the
it on
award,
your
right.
recommendation to award to these bidders, yeah.
Okay. So I think we're good with that, Rich.
Right. Yeah, I understand that now. They're the ones who are going to make the final awards. You're just recommending the
To
list
them.
back to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So then maybe the motion needs to say that we're recommending to the procurement committee that Kathy needs to change the motion a little bit, that we're recommending the procurement committee that the Public Site and Building Commission recommends this amount with the attached spreadsheet, et cetera, et cetera. Make it sound good. Rich is good with that. Okay. So then I'll try again with Johnson. So I make a motion that we recommend to the procurement committee the FF&E bid package B amount for Johnson School of $522,128.15 as per the attached documents and spreadsheet.
Okay.
Dave Olson seconds. Any other questions on any of that? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? Carries. Unanimous. So who brings that back to procurement? Geraldine, do you do that?
Yeah, I've been in touch with Lauren this week. So I said, as soon as you had acted, I would pass on the information that you are making a recommendation. And I think at this point, I will wait for for Perkins Eastman to provide a spreadsheet for each individual vendor. So I'm going to let Lauren know tomorrow to schedule a procurement meeting if it needs to be Friday or something like that. They're doing it remotely.
Right. So then Perkins Eastman would put together a spreadsheet. You'd give them the minutes with our motions, and they should be good with that.
Correct.
Okay.
I just want to confirm that what number you gave for the minutes. Was it 525, 285, 40?
Oh, no.
Because it wasn't that 522, because that's only the eligible number.
Oh, yes, you're right. Okay, we have to correct that. All right.
So it's 525, 285, and 40 cents.
You got that, Kathy? Where is she? Yep, she's saying thumbs up. So you got that number. Good. I can't see all of you at once with the spreadsheet in the way. I have to scroll around to find your pretty faces or your names. Okay, so good to catch that, Joe. Thank you. So 525, 285, 40.
You're welcome.
Yep.
So the other FF&E update is for the playgrounds. I think last time we reported that we had the third-party review comments. We've responded to them and since have received approval from Joe Piers of our responses. So we'll be putting together the package and contacting the state to set up a PCR for those two packages.
Okay,
I
so
don't think that was on the agenda, but
it wasn't, but Joe Piers did send me, I think copied you and me on the reports, and then you marked up the reports. And then the next part is yours, I believe, Joe, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, we had to respond. Most of the comments were pretty superficial. So we got through that, and he approved our responses.
Okay.
which now allows us to go back up to the state.
So does that then put us in a position where you have to go to the state and then you have to put together some bid packages? Is that?
Nope, because playgrounds are going to be purchased off a state contract.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, but I'm sure Barbara will have us jumping through hoops no matter what.
Okay. Because she has nothing better to do.
Yes.
Okay then.
But the good thing is that the order is set based on the estimate that the selected vendor has already given us. So it's really just after we get
Correct.
the approval from the state, we can move right to a purchase order on that.
Okay. So you don't have to wait for a meeting to have us do some kind of approval.
I don't think so,
Rules or any of
because you
that.
did approve the cost estimate, which
Right.
actually was the bid previously.
Okay. Next.
We have one proposed
Change
change order
order,
this
right.
month.
Yep.
It is for Johnson School, and it is during site work. During site work, they dug up some transite pipe on site, which is an asbestos-containing material and needs to be it has been disposed of as abated material. So there is a proposed change order against Johnson School for $7,607.25.
Motion to approve.
And pictures aren't very good in black and white, but it's a whole ton of pipe that they dug up and then had to contain and dispose of.
That must have been fun. So Dave made a motion to approve. I need a second.
Second.
Any other questions on this? I assume this will come out of environmental on Johnson's side?
This will come out of environmental on Johnson's side.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Or comments or need for pictures? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Done. And on change orders, I just have one, I kind of forgot. Last meeting, there was a change order that we approved for, I think it was drainage piping, and it had to do with the amphitheater area, et cetera,
Yes.
and it was listed as having been left out of the design, but it was not left out of the design. Joe Collada did send that to me, and I did not forward it to everyone else. But basically, in the design process where several different either manufacturers or items, et cetera, are listed as approved, depending on what's chosen. And this came up with the elevator when we needed to put plugs and lights and stuff in. That particular trade that is putting in that what they called for required that piping. So different manufacturers wouldn't have, this one did. So it wasn't something that was left out of the design. It was just something additional that had to be put in because of the specific materials that were being used.
That's correct. And that was this PCO 36. And yes, I mischaracterized that as a document omission when the omission was really based on the manufacturer selected. Yes.
Anything else other than invoices?
No.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions, comments, or things that they need to deal with here before we start doing invoices? We have a bunch of environment invoices and a few others. So we're going to start, we have IES, STV, and
we're gonna hold off on all the professional services invoices. We'll hold till June.
Okay.
I only distributed the environment invoices. We've told all of the consultants that whenever their invoices come in, they're going to be dealt with on the second Tuesday of the month. So,
okay. Yeah, because I noticed that I've got all the environment ones, but I also have hard copies of the others because they were given to me, but they weren't in the documents that you sent out.
yeah, and that's why. So no one has seen them.
You will get them next time. So with all the environment ones, do we want to do them in numerical order by invoice, or do we want to do them by school? Because I have the Rockwell ones together and the Johnson ones together.
Yeah, let's do them by school. Let me find them.
So the Rockwell, the first one is 18838.
Right. I can.
Or do you want to just start throwing them up there and I'll find them? And
Oh, okay. Because
so I have the hard copies because Kathy left them all for me.
1883. Excuse me. Let's see if it's this one.
Yep.
Yep, 18838. Okay.
No, so this says proposal estimate. So is that?
No, this was my note to say that. So this was for the testing of the debris above the ceilings in
Right.
Rockwell and the air testing. And they had provided us with a proposal that estimated the fee to be $2706, and their fee came in at $2566. So that was
Okay.
just a note that you had approved a proposal and the amount came in under that.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve, this is all Environment Services, we approve Environment Services invoice number 18838 dated May 20, 2020 for Rockwell School, as Geraldine said, in the amount of, jumping into the second. Any questions on this? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. And the next Rockwell one I have is 18844. Oh, you got 43.
That's all right. Let me find it.
That's a Johnson one.
Nope, 49.
That's the next one.
46. All right.
Well, we could just do them and just do them.
I can only see, here we go. I can only
There you
see the
go.
first three numbers on the title.
So I make a motion that we approve Environment Services invoice number 18844 dated May 21, 2020 for Rockwell School in the amount of, it's on the second page, $4,358.40, and that's for asbestos.
This was just general monitoring during the month of April as abatement was ongoing. In the first floor wing.
Okay, somebody seconded. Who was that? Dave Olson?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. And there's one more Rockwell that's 48. The rest are Johnson. Oh no, here's another Rockwell. 48 and 49 are, yeah, let's do 49 since you got it there.
Okay.
So make a motion that we approve the invoice from Enviromed Services, invoice number 18849, invoice date May 22, 2020, for Rockwell School in the amount of $2,542.20. And this is PCB sampling, second from Dave Olson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And then the last Rockwell one is 48.
Nope.
Just keep clicking through them.
Yes. Yep.
Who's got frogs chirping there in the background? Is that you, Bob, out on your deck?
That's my house. No, I'm back in, but they're so damn loud.
They're saying aye. So Environment Services, invoice number 18848 for Rockwell School dated May 22, 2020, in the amount of $8,685.00 for PCB sampling, and that's more of the floor stuff. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, that's my motion.
Aye.
Second.
Dave seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Done. Nobody says no. Okay. Now we go on to Johnson. You have 43, 46, 50, and 51. Okay, here's 46.
46.
Okay. Make a motion that we approve invoice from 2020 for Johnson School in the amount of $1,791.60.
Second.
Asbestos abatement project monitoring. Dave seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. Throw another one up there.
Nope.
Or, nope.
4-4?
That's Rockwell, I think.
Oops, sorry.
4-3, yes, yep. And make a motion that we approve invoice from Environment Services number 18843. Invoice date, May 21, 2020, for Johnson School asbestos project monitoring in the amount of $1,911.60.
Second.
Dave seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. We got two more. Five one. Make a motion that we approve Environment Services
Oh,
invoice number one. Oop, where'd it go?
sorry.
There
Here
it
we go.
is. 18. Yep, 185 for. Oh, this says Rockwell. Huh. So it
It is
says
Rockwell, yeah.
yeah. So it says closeout report. Is that?
So on the original invoice for the report number 20-239, they omitted the 16 hours to actually create the report. And instead of redoing the other invoice, I said, just send me an invoice for just the report.
So it doesn't mean the job is done.
No.
I was hoping.
It is likely for, it is typically for the monthly run, where they're there every day during, during the month monitoring the air, and then they combine all of the test results into a report for us, and that's what this is for.
Okay, so that was in the amount of $1,040.
Right.
Second. Dave, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
And this is the same situation for Johnson for two of the reports that they sent, or two of the invoices, two of the reports, 313 and 274. They omitted the closeout report.
Okay. Zero, yep, May 22, 2020, Johnson School closeout reports in the amount of $1,040. Second, anybody?
Second it.
Whoever that was, John Menti, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. So then the other invoices we'll do next time.
Correct.
We got them all, right?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Okay, so anything else on our school projects? I know we have some other things we need to discuss, but those are going to have to wait until we get further information together, so we can either meet as a committee or some subcommittees can meet to get info together for us. But any other general questions that anybody has at this time? So our next meeting is, let me look at my calendar. I think it's like June 7th or 8th or something like that. 9th, okay, June 9th. So hopefully we'll have some more schedules and updates and other updates, and we'll be moving along.
Okay.
So anything else? We're good. School folks, good, good, good. Don't everybody sign off, because we public site people still have a little bit to do. So thank you to everybody who's part of the school project. Thanks for being here, and thanks for all your input. Thanks for the info.
Hey,
Have a
Bob.
good night, everyone.
Hey, Bob.
Good guys.
Bob,
night.
what day is good for you, and I'll make it work for me? To walk.
Fridays are better for me.
Okay, that's perfect. Shoot
Okay.
me. You have my email address. Just shoot me
Yes,
when it's good
yeah, I
for you,
do.
and I'll make it work.
Okay, yeah, I know John Mente wanted to walk around as well.
Okay, great.
All
Awesome.
right, very good. All right,
Thank you, sir.
later.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
All righty. So we have, I printed them because I wanted to, I emailed, I'm pretty sure I forwarded all of the reports that came out of our firing range walkthrough to all of you. And I did print some because I was kind of marking them up. And I'm not really sure what to do with them other than say they're, it seems like Hoffman wrote their report, and for those of you who were there, Rich and Roy and Dave that were there, you know that Larry, the Hoffman fellow, was pretty thorough. I mean, he spent a lot of time there. We all left, he was still there. The report does not contain all of his photos. He did take a lot of photos of the areas that he marked up, kind of close-ups and then a little further away. So it seemed like the Hoffman recommendations were very, some were general and then others were specific. And then it seems like CT Masons went out and hired somebody to look at it all and say, nah, we think this. And then Hoffman came back and said, well, yeah, you're right about some things, but other things are, no, you can't. And so that leaves us all like, where do we go from here?
Yeah. Well, on a side note, sorry to interrupt, but on a side note, I've been in touch and dealing with Lieutenant, oh good, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank.
Pugner or Libertini?
Libertini.
Yeah, okay.
I had him send me the HVAC specs on the building, what they're implying, what they want to install. So basically, the system they're installing is actually can work in our favor on a couple aspects. They're going to bring in 25% fresh air, circulate 75%. And then I don't know, I asked him for the complete prints of everything, if there's exhaust fans or not. We could, not that it's going to solve the problem, but it could help it. If we can pressurize the building to a 0.1 static pressure, that will help keep the leakage out of the building. Now, when you walk in the door, you will get a blast of air in the face as you walk in. But I've been with this whole COVID stuff. I've had to do this for the past 4 months in some of my buildings where I'm literally like the doors are, if there's no mag locks on them, they're kind of propped open. I have mine at 0.25 inches of static of pressure. So it's not going to solve it. It will help it. But that's still no guarantee. Once they shut the fans down and they're done with the range for the night or whatever, you get a rainstorm, it's not going to leak in. So with that being said, that's like the only, without having another wall or something out there to help the penetration.
Right, if the wall were on the outside,
yeah,
I could see it wouldn't help. If we if there was like a finished wall on the inside, the water would still be coming in.
Right, and you're going to get mold, you're going to get mildew,
Right,
and
right.
bad situation.
So I have, first, I'm just going to we're going to continue this a little bit, but I know that Dino needs to jump into another meeting, and I didn't know whether he had any questions or comments he wanted to put in before he jumps off.
I have a question, if it's okay to ask Nancy. Is that the only walls?
Well, so can we see first, Dino, did you?
The east wall is the only wall that's leaking throughout the whole building?
All three of, east, south, and
I didn't know
west.
that.
Yeah, they all do.
So they're talking about repointing all the building?
Sort of, but not. I mean, most of it, yeah.
I didn't have much of a chance to look at that one piece of the report where he was talking about where the roof and the walls meet.
Right.
But that seemed to be of significant concern.
Right. Yeah, I saw that too, and it was, yeah, it was discussed by in all three reports. The first one, and then well, sort of in the first one, but then more so in the second. So A, B, and C kind of go in date order. But yeah, and that was something that was brought up a while back where they talked about caulking underneath that flashing, but the report seems to say that you kind of need a little bit more than caulking underneath the flashing. I
Nancy,
think
there?
something that Pugner, Pugner pointed out a few times by sending photos of, even on a dry day, you'd see water dripping down on the building, perfectly sunny, dry day, water dripping down from up above out of that gutter area.
That's what, well, that was what I brought up about the roof flashing coming up and over, and the membrane coming up and over the top of the wall, which
Right.
it to do in order to keep it a tight seal.
Mhm.
And they did that. So now what you're saying raises a whole nother question on that.
Right. And then, Roy, go ahead.
And Nancy,
Yeah.
just based upon kind of the reports, I kind of think we should maybe, I'd like to get a meeting set up with Brian and Jeff and discuss these kind of just, you know, not a sit down, but a conversation that we can go through them. So,
Right, because in looking at them, I mean, we've received them, Jeff sent them, I forwarded them to everybody, including Marty and Matt and
Right.
Chris Baldwin. I included him too. And yet we heard no, I mean, it was only Friday, but I've heard no reply from Brian saying, oh, I'll look into it, or from anybody at Downs saying, you know, we'll come to your meeting and we'll discuss this, or, you know, read the report. So they're the construction manager. They should be weighing in some way.
right.
So I don't think, you know, obviously we can't make any decisions here, and I wouldn't propose that we do. I think we need to continue to take this under advisement, and, you know, everybody can give it a good read. I skimmed it and then I went back through in a little more detail and did some highlighting and wrote some questions down, et cetera. And
Is this something we could get together with Marty also with on the same thing, Nancy? Is that, you know, to kind of just spend a little bit of time with him and see what his feeling is as far as how we should respond?
well, that's why I forwarded it to him. So I'd want to have, you know, his input and see, you know, what do we need to do here? Do we, I understand all the different proposals that they've put forward, and everybody's got there. It's like kind of a little more finger pointing and let's try this, let's try that. And, you know, a year later, are we still going to be trying things and pointing fingers? So I do want to get some input too from Marty. And, you know, if as you're reviewing it yourselves, you know, we make some notes, and, you know, we can put together sort of a list of questions that if we did get to meet with Downs and Jakunski Humes and say, why this and why wasn't this done? And is it
Right.
something that was in, you know, it's like in a way they're pointing at design, but sometimes I keep seeing in each report something about water resistance and not waterproof. And I don't care what we do with the air or anything else, we don't want any water coming in. That's going to mess a lot of things up.
No, but, and so to that point, like, I believe it was Roy that brought it up to me when we first walked it, was these guys have designed probably dozens of ranges over the years.
The architect or the guys that are doing the interior?
The architect.
Yeah, that's, you know, they did Danbury.
Right.
Yeah, Danbury High School, right.
Not Danbury High School, the police department.
Police department.
Right.
Yeah. And their firing range too.
Yeah, but that's an interior range. It's not really, I think it only has one exterior.
Right. It's kind of like under the building, sort of
Yeah.
behind under the building. So it's a different kind of situation.
But even that, is that, and I'm asking, I don't know, is that a single wall? Is it a double wall? I mean,
right.
Roy brought up, Roy and I talked about for a few minutes, was they're not new at this. This is their job. So
Right.
how is
Done it
this?
before.
Yeah, like
Right.
how is this acceptable in any way, shape, or form from somebody who's supposed to be the expert on building these ranges? And I'm not gonna. I'm sorry. I'm gonna take a hard stance on this. I'm not accepting anything they throw at us of, well, who's this, who's that. No, it's your friggin' job to design these the way they're supposed to be. Done. End of story.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that was
Yeah.
why Marty wanted us to spend some time, to make sure we got, all the construction items cleaned up first before we should work our way back to talk to Brian as far
Yeah.
as. So, but I do think we have
But it
to
might-
have Marty involved.
Yeah. And I don't,
Brian
I'm not sure if,
Brian was hanging his hat on that the wall should have been waterproof on the outside. So that might have gotten away with it for a while, but that building was still going to leak one way or the other. The
Right.
workmanship was very
That's what I'm
poor.
thinking, is that it's a temporary fix. In a year from now or 2 years from now, it's going to happen again.
Right.
To reseal it again. Yep.
right. And what I found, the last email I had from Brian, which was complaining about the fact that we still owe him money, I did reply generally, and I think I might have included John, or I might have included some of you, or I might have sent you what I wrote. But basically I said, here we are, we still don't have a CO on the building. I know that's not your part. Construction manager is supposed to do that. Yet you have to understand our frustration with blah, blah, blah. And what I was looking for was, I went back through emails because I was trying to find, remember with the flagpole lights, Roy, last summer, we went out when we were out there and Brian met us with the Ferguson, who was the electrician, the manufacturer who supplied the flagpole lights. Brian came.
Yep.
And we looked at a whole bunch of things, and he was actually very helpful in writing a field report where all these different things that had been deficient that weren't getting dealt with, we kept pointing out, saying, this isn't working, like the tower drainage. You wrote a report, all that stuff got fixed. We haven't gotten a bill for it yet, and I don't think we should, because that was stuff that was them downs falling down on the job on site management. But I found an email from Brian talking about the water, basically almost saying, well, pretty much saying the mortar and the block had additives to make that wall water repellent. Kind of almost answering the question of, do we need a sealer? No, you don't need a sealer. I'll have to find it. I can forward it to you. But anyways, yes, we need to have these reports definitely reviewed by Marty. And again, we're not going to take any action. We're not going to, as the owners, I didn't even know that Sal from CT Masons was going out there to do a further check. He must have set something up through the police department, but we didn't know about it,
After he saw the report, that's what he wanted to go back out there and say, why all these spots located,
Right. And yet, a lot of stuff is happening kind of behind, with like down sending one person out to do something, and then they arrange it through the police department, and we don't even know what happened. Not that they're leaving us out, they're just trying to get the work done, but at the same time, we're sort of like finding out secondhand in a way that, yes, this report came out, well, then there was another one, and then there was another one. So, so we're going to have to...
Hey, Dave, I never heard of a system having to blow the water back out from the inside outside.
It's not blowing it back. It's just to pressurize, and that's
Basically, it's blowing back out.
It's not designed to do that at all. That is not the design intent of any building. The design intent of that is just to keep a positive pressure, to keep outdoor humidity and temperature from it coming into a building. It will help keep moisture and possibly rain out. I had a building where there was holes in the Q decking where the air got up under the rubber roof and actually just lifted up slightly. So it's just a way of positive pressure helping. It's not solving the problem whatsoever. It's
I agree.
That's it.
Okay. So,
Good night, everyone.
oh, good night, Dino.
We're
Thanks.
doing
Good night, Dino. Thank you.
See you next time. So, so yeah, we could discuss this on and on and on, but we won't because we have to, I'm just gonna, like I said, I forwarded it to Marty, but I'm gonna check in with him and see what his thoughts might be. He can review it, but he's gonna probably need one or two of us to explain the construction parts to him.
Yeah.
Nancy,
Yeah, Rich?
are they told that not to go there and do anything? Or are they going to show up someday and start rerouting?
Well, I don't think they can because there's several places where it says as per owner's approval. And so the original Hoffman, the first A Hoffman report and then B, CT Masons and their advisor. I don't know who this group is, this have you ever heard of National Consulting Group?
Nope.
People had heard of Hoffman, but not National Consulting Group. I Googled them and found one in New Jersey, but I don't know if they're the same. But we recommend doing a test 4-foot by 4-foot test area at the owner's, approval or whatever. And then the C report came back. So I don't think they can. I will email them and say, we are taking all of this under advisement. Please know nothing happens until we let you know.
Yeah, that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should need to send them something.
Yeah, I will. Well, especially the only thing I said when Jeff sent the reports was, thank you. I will forward these to all the commission members because Pugner was like, we're supposed to start this now. Get this started. And I'm like, you don't want to start anything right now.
Right.
But that was before when we had that meeting, Roy and Rich and whoever else was there. Laid out their proposal of doing a walkthrough and then commencing work. The walkthrough was supposed to happen in April with the work commencing in May. Pugner kept trying to push it back with the walkthrough. I should probably not keep calling him Pugner because he's the chief now, or not yet, but soon. With the walkthrough in March, with work starting in April, weather permitting. And he's been pushing for that. And I'm glad we have these reports because I don't want anything to start right now.
Right.
Keep Steve Pugner in the loop with this too, because.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, he's been part of the emails that Down sends out to, I think you, me, John, Pugner, and one other person. And then I forward them to all of you and Matt and Marty and anybody else who's asked to be kept in the loop, but I will. Anything else? Anything else you want me to tell them at this point?
I won't say what.
We can't say it.
I would like to, I was there and I wanted to get on the roof and I just didn't do it, but I want to confirm that the flashing is actually up over the demising wall and down and hanging down the way it should be.
Yeah, water runs high down, and that would be the obvious point of water seepage.
Well, that's what I was curious as to how they fastened it, and nobody could give me an answer that day because, you're running your membrane up over the block wall and down the 3 inches, whatever it is. You're going to fasten your cap. How are you fastening your cap?
Mm-hmm.
Are you penetrating the rubber? Well, then there's your leaks.
Right.
So, you
And
know,
supposedly the roofers came out when some of the leaks first started and verified that, and I don't think we got a report from them, but I can look back and see with any Downs communications whether we had anything specific from the roofers.
No, it was frozen water that was in the roofing tiles. In the precast roofing, remember they said, oh, there was probably some frozen water left in there.
Right, and that wasn't,
is that what their excuse was?
The first time.
Well, you're gonna hear it. I mean, like Rich, you've been in this for a
and that,
long.
first of all, they said frozen. They were saying first frozen water left in the walls, like in the any voids that were in the block, and they drilled some holes, and that wasn't the case. So then they said in the roof, drilled some holes, that wasn't the case.
Well, that's
So-
the other thing. They said there's insulation, there's styrofoam insulation inside each of the blocks. Then you've got the concrete.
Mhm.
I'm still baffled as to how the hell that water is getting like it.
Yeah,
How, and
it's running
to go to
parallel.
It's wicking its way in.
Oh, I understand that, Roy. I truly do. But how? I mean, everything's into the building, not away. Like
Split face block needs to be sealed. Every building with split face is sealed.
It's
Of
just
that much surface area.
I agree. I agree.
So Dave, you're gonna climb on the roof sometime?
Yes, I do.
Well, okay, so make arrangements with, like, if you're been, back and forth with Libertini and you want to bring your own ladder and all that. And if you want somebody to
Yeah.
join you, we can figure
Yeah,
that out.
I would join you.
Yeah, there's a ladder on the backside of the roof that allows you to get up there, and I was tempted to do it, but it was locked up. So I'll talk to Libertini, check it out.
Okay.
And see how they're fastening the caps to the wall.
Okay.
Yeah, makes more sense that they would leak from the top down rather than from outside in.
Well, I'll tell you what though, Gil, if you looked at the pictures and if you
I
walked
saw.
it's everywhere.
I can't.
Yeah, it's all over.
The only place that didn't leak was where they had the temporary block up for the AC to go through an exhaust fan. That didn't leak. That was perfectly fine. Everything else leaked. And I said, so why is that? Oh, well, it's not full.
It's just not making sense.
Block. I'm like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So the only other part of this that I wanted to discuss was our getting a CO, but I didn't get any reports back from either Chris Baldwin or from Downs. And I know that Ryan Patrick had emailed Chris Baldwin and said, what can we do about this? Let's do a walkthrough. And then I know that Chris Baldwin had gotten out. He had a whole binder full of stuff that back a year and a half ago he saw that weren't finished. And I know recently he's been revisiting his binder so that he can check all these things to make sure that they've been completed. And I haven't heard anything specific from Chris or from Downs. So I'll have to wait on that. And anything else on the, what?
How are the blinds?
The blinds, I hear the blinds everybody loves the blinds. We haven't had any complaints. Now that it's getting to be even sunnier weather, I think they're working really well.
Good. Thank you.
So happy for that. And then I don't have
I'm
anything
even
else on.
happier. I'm even happier, Nancy.
Yeah. Roy's happy because it's done and it got finished finally.
One of Roy's nightmares.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those things I think we have to, slap ourselves upside the head sometimes when we say, oh, let's not do that. And then later on we find out, let's do it ourselves.
Yeah, it's not so easy.
No more of that. No more of that. All right. And then I don't have anything else unless anybody else does. Like I said, I'll contact Downs and everybody. No work starts unless you hear from us. And Dave, if you're going to go crawl around on the roof, you can let us know what you find out.
Yeah, I will. I'm looking for his email right now, and I'll. Gil, I have your email. I'll loop you into it.
You do have my email. It's gil.letelier @yahoo.com. And if you don't know how to spell Letelier, like most people,
Oh, all of our,
it's Letelier.
yeah, all of our emails
Good. I
are,
look forward to working with you.
yeah, all of our emails are in there when Kathy sends out the agenda, so you should be able to get everything.
Good idea.
So, Kathy, what are you looking at? Kathy wants us to stop.
You're
So,
laughing at us.
Yeah,
And she's still muted.
yeah. She doesn't want us to hear that she's playing loud music and
Exactly. She's always
background.
bopping.
Okay, so I think we're done. Anybody want to do a
I
motion?
make a motion, we adjourn?
Dave
Second.
seconds, all in favor? Aye.
All right.
Have a great night.
Opposed, done. Yeah,
Good.
you too. Everybody have a good,
Good
Kathy,
night,
I'll talk to
everyone.
you. Good night,
care.
good night.